Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to the Down Under series. We're here for a very exciting race from Auckland for the Auckland Sprint 2 40-minute races as ever, and this should be a very exciting one indeed. Wayne Walker, who has won 7 races this season, sitting on 2,471 points, leads the way in the standings. Of course, with that kind of record. And the season heading towards the end, around 20, the Auckland Sprint, and 21, the Auckland Sprint 2. Only Bathurst, the Gold Coast, and Newcastle to come. I'm Tom Dillon. Alongside me this evening is Matthew. And, well, welcome along to the commentary box. This should be a belt of a race, really.
Yeah, it's good to be back as always. These guys always put on a really good show for us at the V8 Championship, and you know Wayne Walker's walking away with the championship, as you mentioned, with the points. But there's always a good fight, especially from the likes of Stephen Walker, Craig Broadbent, and Obertisano. And you know even further throughout the top 10, we get amazing fights occur from start to finish throughout each of these sprint races, and it's the final sprint race as well. And to add on top of that, it's the final race here at Auckland as well, because as far as I'm aware, they are going to be cease racing, motorsport racing at least, from April 2023, which is a real shame, but hopefully it'll be a really good show for the last final time here.
And through my understanding, the real-life V8 Supercars actually have finished their racing here this weekend in the real world. They've decided to, well, obviously they've decided to stop with it finishing in April. So an emotional last weekend for the track over there as well in the real world. But here on this sim, you can see the calendar on your screen with the Bathurst 1000 next up on the 8th of October. Then on the 24th, it's the Gold Coast Enduro before the Adelaide 500 on the 3rd of December. So right towards the end of the season now, Matt. It seems that Wayne Walker, as we mentioned, walking away with the championship a little bit, but plenty of opportunities for everyone else to make up some ground in other areas.
Yeah, I mean, this circuit, like many of the ones in this championship, there's a lot of long straights, a lot of high-speed corners. It's going to be about time management, and the slipstream here will play a crucial part as well. So, similar to what we saw at Sandown, it's not going to be that easy for Wayne Walker to sprint away. We saw Stephen White staying on his coattails, that's for sure, last round. So, I'm expecting something similar for this round, and of course, qualifying as always, which we're through now, is always extremely close.
Absolutely, and, well, qualifying perhaps not the most incredibly important on a circuit like this, a circuit that's rather short, expecting around 58-second lap times or so, somewhere within that region. And I think really it's going to be a question of making sure you've got the track position, but also perhaps you don't want to be exactly in the lead. It's one of those short sort of toe-heavy V8 Supercar tracks, from what I can see, that we tend to get occasionally in this championship. It's a proper Australian and New Zealand, I suppose, oceanic racing circuit, isn't it, really, as we see Wayne Walker on pole position at the moment. But
and paying a visit to the grass, doing a bit of lawn mowing as he's celebrating his pole position as well there.
Well, still a bit of time for him to not be on pole position in the next 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, so let's just quickly touch on the qualifying at the moment. We are halfway through. It's a 15-minute session, and there's 7 minutes remaining as we join halfway. Nice and plenty of time for those tyres to get warmed up, and they are very delicate with these V8 supercars. Very heavy machinery, as Tom says. And of course, you've got to look after that soft compound tyre, because they only use the softs for the sprint races. Very important to note when we go to the racing sessions. But Wayne Walker on pole position with the 58.820, and then Stephen White just shy of 300ths of a second, my apologies, with a 58.854. So extremely close between these top two once again. And then Craig Broadbent not far behind either with a 59.0, and that's just 0.193 off the pole position. He's just coming across the start-finishing line now. There's a bit of join lag, unfortunately, but he does improve. He's now into the 58.8s as well. So top three separated by 300ths of a point of a second there.
And that just goes with the testament of a circuit like this, how short, relatively speaking, it is. 58 seconds in a V8 Supercar is not a great deal of time at all, and to have the top three so close together, I think, goes and shows that. Unfortunately, fourth Mark Young, a little bit further back than that with a 59.2. But if I'm 4 tenths per second off of pole position and I'm down in fourth position, I'm going to be a little bit annoyed, as that usually should be anywhere from second to third. But continuing on, as we see 10th position, Jacob Frazier coming on through, trying to set a lap time, seeing if he can improve. Here is the qualifying box. This is starting his flying lap through the chicane. Pretty nicely indeed through there, then just getting the car set up, and actually he's going to back out to the lap.
I think we're going to see a lot of that. Yeah, I think sorry to interrupt you there, Tom. I think we're going to see a lot of that during this qualifying session. You know, if there's such a fine margin, every corner has to be perfected to bring this one home. And simply put, if you mess up with single apex, you're pretty much half a second off the pace easily. And that's why we're seeing so many bailouts here in the qualifying session, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. As we see Stafford in 11th position at the moment, trying to set a lap time in his own. He's green in first two sectors and 59.6 at the moment, so a little bit of a ways off of the pole position lap time, but going along nicely at the moment. What's it going to be as he comes to the line? It's a very far back line. He's able to jump up to 7th. Is Craig Stafford with a very respectable, Sean Stafford with a very respectable lap time indeed of 59.4. So he's about 4 tenths per second, 5 tenths per second off of pole position, isn't he, at the moment?
Let's go on board for a lap then, because we are running out of time, unfortunately. I was going to go on board with Stephen White, but he's made a big mess out of coming out of turn 1 and gone into the gravel as a result. Let's go on board with Mark Young then as we go around the Auckland Sprint Raceway, and turn 1 is a very long right-hander, and even he's bailing out of that particular lap as well. See, this is what I'm talking about. They know when it's a good lap, and it all comes down to that first corner alone. You know, it's a long right-hander. You have to perfect the entry point coming up to the chicane for turns 2 and 3, and if they haven't got that right, then there's no point continuing the lap. It's not going to be an improvement over the last time. So Stephen White's back out again. We'll try and go on board a further time. Where is he going now? I think he's going through turn 2 and 3 at the moment on his out lap. We'll try and stay with him as best we can, as we have 3 minutes and 20 seconds left before the end of qualifying. Let's see if he can bring it home.
Be hoping to, and hoping to nick that pole position away from Wayne Walker. As Wayne Walker really a force to be reckoned with in the championship, at only 300ths of a second separating the two of them at the moment, and we'll just see how crucial that 300ths can be. That is literally a millimetre on the racing line, isn't it? 300ths of a second. It's not a great deal of time at all, as White rounds the I believe this is just sector 2 and heading through into the final sector, ready to start his lap. Important to get the tyres up to temperature early in an out lap. In my experience, that can be quite difficult in V8 supercars, but here he goes. Stephen White ready to start his lap down into turn 1, spot out the braking point. I think it's just a slight lift off into there, down into a heavy braking zone for the 2 chicanes. Make sure you are right over to the left for the second part of that chicane, all on the curb on the left hand side.
And he's bailed already.
Backing out again.
So this is such a fine margin, isn't it, that we're seeing? You know, the gap between these guys. I mean, Wayne Walker's just improved with a 58.692, so he's a slight bit more comfortable now with a 1.6 gap, or 0.116 gap to the rest of the competition, but it's still extremely close. And just seeing all these guys struggling to get that kind of pace on the board just shows how much commitment you need when doing a flying lap around here.
And that suggests to me as well that sort of turn 2, turn 3 chicane is so important that if you get that wrong, that they're backing out of their laps immediately, almost as if there's no place to save the lap.
Yeah, I mean, of course, coming out of the chicane, you then slow immediately down for turn 4, which is a 90-degree right-hander. That's then followed by the longest straight on the circuit, all the way down into turn 5 and 6. So if they don't get that right, then they're already losing time, as the car's obviously a few horsepower down, or a few kilometres down, all the way to the next set of corners.
Absolutely, as we see White trying to make the best of it again on an outlap, and probably one more opportunity here, really. 50 seconds to go in the qualifying sessions. This will be his last lap, Stephen White, the last chance to try and get those 3,000th or 300th of a second that he needs out of Wayne Walker. In fact, Wayne Walker's improved, so it's gone to a 10th of a second, so a lot more pressure on this lap. All of a sudden comes out of the cresting final corner here. There's a lot of bodywork on the track, but he'll be able to avoid that down into turn 1. Make sure you set yourself up nicely. Don't let the car get away from you for the heavy braking zone of the chicane. Looks good to me. I don't know whether he'll be happy with it though. And yes, slight little bit of an oversteer. Looks like he's going to press on. He's yellow in sector 1, which won't be the most encouraging thing for him. Has to make up a great deal of time now. Heading into the last couple of sectors. Heavy braking zone now for the right-hander. Make sure you're right over to the right-hand side for the cut back into the chicane. And now just a heavy sprint into a braking zone once more. Keep the car nice and tucked in. Use all of the curves for that extra little bit of rotation. Green in the next sector. Heading down to what is the final couple of corners here. Just a kink of a right-hander down into the pitch straight. And it looks like it is going to be purple in the final sector, but not enough from Stephen White. It does improve, but only 300ths of a second behind Wayne Walker. 300ths of a second, however, is definitely enough to keep you behind someone, unfortunately.
Well, he's made Wayne Walker know that he's with him on this one. You know, he may not have taken pole from him, but he's saying if you can go faster, I can go faster too. So he's matching pace. I mean, Craig Broadbent, I think that's the end of qualifying now. It is indeed, as they all start coming across the line. Brett Gooden spinning around in good style. But that is the end of qualifying. That is your starting order. Alex Kiedis is still out on track having a bit of fun, but he's still to set a time. But he's I think he's parked up for the time being. But yeah, that is qualifying there. What a show that was.
Very interesting to see it go down to the absolute wire as well, with 300ths of a second. Wayne Walker will know as well. He'll be encouraged. He messed up sector 1, so he'll be encouraged that he had that lap time in the bag. And just wasn't quite able to convert in the final couple of corners there. Here are the results then. Wayne Walker is on pole position. Stephen White starts in second, only 300ths of a second off of the pace. Or really, if you round it, it's 400ths of a second, isn't it? Craig Broadbent is in third position with Billy Ebenheiser in fourth. Alex Kiedis is in fifth position. Mark Young lines up alongside him in sixth. Then it's Jacob Frazier from Justin Bryce, and then Hayden Darragh. In 10th position, rounding out the top 10, is Brett Gooden. All the top 10, by the way, separated by my reckoning by 7/10ths of a second. Here is the 11th through 17th. It's Sean Stafford in 11th position. Craig Stoddard in 12th. John Slow starts at 13th position with Alex Daly in 14th. Then it's Paul Robinson in 15th position. Matt Ogg in 16th. And then Ashley Kutchie in 17th. And lining up last.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the gaps, you know, we're under 1 second gap all the way up to P12, so really good stuff from all of the guys here. I'm sure that we're going to see a pretty good show, that's for sure, coming up to the first green flag.
Excited for a good show myself as well. Only about 4 minutes until we get into that first race. A 5-minute warm-up session, which I quite like out of qualifying. I think after the first race, you always want a little bit of a longer warm-up session after 40 minutes of hard racing. But as you get into the race, I think it's always quite nice to have just a quick warm-up session so you can get your head back into the game. A circuit like this, that's plenty of time to do a couple of race pace laps. And I don't know how much experience you've got driving V8 Supercars, Matt, but do you have any insight into how they drive differently in race pace compared to qualifying pace?
Well, funny enough, we was trying to practice for the Bathurst race on iRacing, and let's just say that these things are not easy to drive at all. They're heavy, they understeer, they oversteer, they're very wild under throttle. So when you get the different loads in these cars, when you're going to full fuel, you're going to get a lot more. Well, I think it will bring the car more into oversteer personally, because obviously you've got the weight balancing from the back. So instead of the heavy V8 in the front, you'll have a bit more weight in the back. That should give you a bit more traction coming out of the corners at the start. As the load begins to lighten, though, of course, that's going to generate more and more wheel spin. Those tyres aren't going to be pushed into the ground as easily because there's less fuel in the back of the car. And that's what I found personally when we was practicing for that particular race. But, you know, these guys, they're so used to driving these things, it's like a second nature to them. You know, the guys at the top, you can tell just by the points alone how close it all is. So we'll see who comes out on top. And, you know, just going into this race alone, you've got Craig Broadbent, Stephen White, Opposano, Mark Young, all extremely close in terms of points. Unfortunately, Chris McClellan can't be with us here this evening, but he's definitely one in contention as well. But all of them within 100 points to each other, and of course 150 points per race. That is very close indeed.
Absolutely, I'm sure they'd all quite like it to be £150, but 150
yes.
points is a great deal of points.
They won't be able to spend it; they'll have to get it exchanged. But even so,
yes. But one thing that's sticking out to me in the warm-up session is that Craig Broadbent goes top with a 59.6. That suggests to me that either the people, the likes of Wayne Walker, not particularly pushing, Wayne Walker not setting a lap yet, or it is actually that different in terms of race pace compared to qualifying pace, to the point where it is for quite a few people about a second or so. That could be interesting. But looking at the nature of this circuit on the track map, is it's got a couple of very long straights and a lot of heavy braking zones, which suggests to me, having not watched too many races, well, I actually, going to admit, I haven't watched a race around this circuit before. It suggests to me that overtaking might be, while it's difficult, certainly possible.
I mean, the most overtaking you'll do, turn one's a bit iffy. Maybe potentially into turn two if you overdrive the car and then get it on the inside. That's a potential option. Of course, there is risk because it tightens very quickly into that chicane at turns 2 and 3. All the way down to turn 5, that's your main overtaking opportunity. Get nice and tucked up behind the car ahead and slipstream your way past. Down the inside is where you want to be, preferably, because it's then really tightens up for turn 6. You may potentially have another opportunity going into turn 11, but you'd have to be extremely close slipstream wise in order to make that happen, in my view. But those are, I think, 3 maximum potential opportunities, and of course there's always someone that's going to go out of those, isn't they? They're going to try it somewhere else, unheard of before, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely, and I think another key for the people at the front, as it often is in these sort of V8 supercars. I've been commentating on a series actually recently in Ford Mustangs. It's all about American muscle cars, and I always draw similarities in that series to racing V8 supercars like this, because they're very similar in characteristics. As we go to the end of the warm-up session, I'll have the starting grid in a moment. It's flashing up on your screen. And in that series, a lot of the time, the key for the person at the front is to get away from the pack and break the slipstream, because the slipstream's so powerful in cars that don't have a great deal of aero, and of course have brakes, as we know with the V8 supercars. It's so important to get a little bit of a gap away, perhaps 1.5 seconds, that once you do, it's almost as if you've half won the race.
Well, the thing with these V8s as well is the tyre management is crucial. These soft-compound tyres, they need changing basically every 15 to 20 minutes. They really don't last that long at all. They basically get chewed up. So although it's good to be in the slipstream with the car ahead, you've then got to think about your tyres and look after those. It's a fine balance indeed. So it's going to be who can find that fine-tuned scenario, who's going to come out on top. But we're now getting lined up for the race, and I'll let you take over.
Important to get underway very quickly. We do get underway, and it's a perfect start from Wayne Walker down into turn 1. Everyone just slots in behind. No one really wanting to make a challenge at this stage. Down into the first braking zone of this circuit. Wayne Walker still leads from Stephen White, and then Craig Broadbent just a little bit further behind. Some people trying to make up some moves as we head out of the chicane and down into this sort of short shoot into the next heavy braking zone, but Wayne Walker able to get a gap early on here, 0.4 of a second as they head on through into Sector 2 and then Sector 3 after that. Wayne Walker just stressing the importance of making sure he's not challenged. Someone onto the grass further back as
yeah, that's Matt Ogg. He's going completely sideways.
That is a huge issue into the wall.
He looks like he collected someone as well at the same time. He seems to be turning it around, getting back underway quite quickly, but that's bad news for Matt Ogg. He's gone all the way down to the bottom of the order there.
Absolutely, and I think that perhaps the worst possible way to start his race is that's someone onto the grass, really quite dramatically able to keep the car in order there, but Wayne Walker gets the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly, as he was the one running without the traffic, and then everyone else setting a frenzy of obviously green lap times further back. But here we look at Ebenhauser was the man who went into the grass, not lost a great deal of time, and actually already is having a look at Alex Kiedis just ahead of him.
No, that was Matt Ogg that went off. This is Billy Ebenhauser, this is Jarvis Holden, so he's still on track for his race at the moment. I was just taking a look as he tries to find a way. He went onto the grass in the final corner. Yeah, he did. Sorry, I thought you meant like the one who spanned.
Yes,
my apologies.
No, that's my bad. I should have been a little bit clearer. But anyway, trying to recover from that slight mistake. Wayne Walker finding himself under a little bit of pressure. This is quite interesting, as I would suggest that Stephen White might be wanting to do a little bit of tandem flying here to try and get away from the chasing pack. But the body language of that car suggesting that maybe not being so compliant is heading through the chicane, still stays behind Stephen White, knowing Wayne Walker's braking points absolutely perfectly here. Of course, he has got brake lights, which I think is the most important thing when you're behind someone, making sure that you use those and to make sure that you don't career into the back of them heavy onto the brakes. Just needs to get a run, perhaps, as you said, down into turn 11, perhaps down the start finish straight. But at the moment, Stephen White 0.3 of a second behind and just trying to chase after that number one car. And perhaps this is going to be one of those races where if you can't do it on track, it's going to be about who takes those pit stops earlier with those soft tyres needing to be changed, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we've seen that many times. Craig Broadbent seems to be one that's got that down quite well. As at the same time, he's always undercutting the competition ahead. He's very good at reading those tyres, as is Wayne Walker, so it does have a big effect on the race. Of course, the offset to that is that by the end of the second stint, those tyres will be very worn, and they need to defend that position that they gained from earlier as well. So it's a trade-off, and it'll be see whether it's worth it or not.
Absolutely, and the question is, will Stephen White take that pit stop a lap earlier or so to try and get the undercut and be a little bit further back as we head into the end of the race? Here is the battle for fourth position. Is Alex Kiedis still holding off Billy Ebenhauser. They've got Aidan Darragh just behind them, and you can see there a little bit of a look actually from Billy as he went down into the chicane, and it looks like Alex Kiedis just struggling ever so slightly to contain these cars, perhaps feeling the pressure of 3 V8 supercars breathing down your neck. He hasn't got a great deal of time ahead of him as well, as Craig Broadbent is 1.5 seconds down the road. But look at this as they head down into turn 2 and turn 3. You just get the sense that Ebenhauser is trying all he can to get through here, and I think it's not long before we see that move, and he is losing a little bit of time at the moment, perhaps just a symptom of the little bit of dirty air that these cars do produce. It's not the biggest of factors, as they can follow so closely, but you can see getting loose there for a moment. And I think one of the keys here is going to be waiting for the car ahead of you to make a mistake. It's going to be all about how you apply that pressure.
Ooh, as there is a mistake from Kiedis. Yeah, he's trying to get back under power. Luckily, he's got the room to do so. He came over to the right-hand side, setting up for the next corner. and Billy nowhere to go and has to settle back into order. But he's now trying to open the door down the inside, gets a slightly better run, goes onto the grass completely. He's going to have to rejoin safely, which he does in the hold, and it's twitching left and right as he does, and he now finds himself too wide going into turn 1. Brett Gooden down on the inside and gets through, so that manoeuvre there, that opportunity really did backfire there for Billy.
Absolutely backfired, and we talk about so much about having to pressure the guy ahead of you into a mistake that you hope that you're not going to be the one to make the mistake yourself. But Billy with a huge bit of work to do now to try and get back past Hayden Darroch, who himself is going to be trying to apply that pressure to Kiedis ahead of him. But this battle for 4th position raging on. This isn't even a podium position, and yet they're fighting it as if it was the race win. He didn't leave anything on the table, did Ebenhauser, and unfortunately it forced him into the grass. But a mistake from the car ahead is going to give him a little bit of an opportunity perhaps to have a look. We've got yellow flags in sector 2. I'm looking at my timing screen, can't quite see what's gone on there. It's 15th position, I can tell you. Ashley Cucci has a mistake, and here is, I believe, Cucci, and it looks like he's got a little bit of damage as he's under a great deal of pressure, and the car looking very squirrely indeed.
Yeah, that's not a comfortable V8, is it? It's twitching left and right. Even coming through that final corner there, it was oversteering almost as he came into that corner, which isn't something we usually see. Yeah, you can see him fighting the car constantly, even coming through turn 1 as well. So something definitely not quite right with that car. I mean, Sean Stafford is trying to find his way past, bless him. He's he's just thinking, I don't want to get involved in this, but just I want to get past cleanly. And you've then got Matt Ogg just starting to close in as well, just behind. So even down at the back of the order, P15, we're still seeing some battles take place.
Absolutely, and also seeing how, even though there is a lot of areas to slipstream, not the easiest to overtake, there is a penalty that's just come through, and I believe
it's Robinson
immediately in to serve it. Paul Robinson, not the ideal place to be getting a drive-through penalty immediately. That will lose him, actually, the best part of a lap. Is if it's about 25 seconds into the pit lane, as it normally is, then he's going to be not only to the very back of the order, but probably losing about a lap here. Here is someone onto the grass, and it's going to give Sean Stafford the opportunity to get back through on
he's going to go down the inside. Yeah, sorry, it's Ashley Cutchy, the injured car that's making its way around. Yes. He's gone down the inside in that Penrite Holden, and he's taken that position away finally. Of course, that was a sigh of relief. I'm sure he could see the car ahead twitching left and right from the damage, but he's got past now.
Got past indeed, and into 14th position, and that is a relief for Sean Stafford. You don't want to be stuck behind a slow car for too long, and actually good driving from the pair of them as well. Ashley Cucci to make sure that he was just a little bit further. Oh, there is that Ebenhauser again onto the grass, making the same mistake once more in the top of your picture, I think it was. But the important news here is that Hayden Darroch is now attacking Alex Kiedis for 4th position, and Kiedis just can't catch a break here. He couldn't pull any sort of gap, and immediately you can see Hayden is just starting to try and think about showing his nose. There it is, building that pressure, which is so important. Just shows his nose, make sure Alex Kiedis knows that he's there, and the number 17 car against the number 53, trying to hold off. At the moment, he's not been passed so far in this race, and there is the nose showing again. It's a touch, and that touch is going to give Hayden a bit of a run around the outside. He goes. Can he get past Alex Kiedis? He's still side by side through one of the fastest corners on the circuit, and they make contact once more into the braking zone. Can Hayden get through onto the grass from Alex Kiedis? It's a very fast final corner, not really a braking zone, but Hayden is through, though the suggestion that actually it was the tap that gave him the run.
Yeah, I mean, coming through that final corner, I thought Alex was going to go and pay a visit to the barrier there. He did a really good job of slowing that Mustang down just in time. It was on the grass, but it was nowhere near as bad as what it seemed at the midway point through that apex. But yeah, it was a slight love tap on the rear fender, and that made him unsettled. That allowed Hayden Darroch to get alongside, so it's a slight push to pass. But obviously it's all fair in love and war, I guess, in these V8 supercars. We'll have to see if anything comes of that. I doubt it will, to be honest. But now continuing on, Hayden's in P4. just outside those podium positions, Craig Broadbent, the only person ahead who's making headway, at least 4 to 5 seconds ahead of these guys, this little pack. But Billy now back in the fight, it seems. He is just shy of that slipstream.
He's made the most of the two ahead of him battling as we... he's made the same mistake again as Billy Ebenhauser, and you need to start putting a tally up as, in fairness to him, as don't want to be unfair on the drivers. Once you've got into your head and it's almost in your rhythm, I imagine you've experienced this from driving iRacing, Matt. Once you've got yourself into a rhythm where a mistake becomes quite easily possible, that mistake almost becomes a part of your racing line in a way, and you're having to consciously avoid the mistake. And sometimes it's just quite difficult in a 40-minute race.
I mean, the problem with these guys is that it is a sprint race, you know, even though it's 40 minutes and although we have pit stops, they're pushing these cars to the absolute limit, and it's quite easy in that final corner. The entry is quite difficult. You've got these high concrete walls on either side, so I'm sure that plays a part on their mind and how they enter the corner. So it's obviously something he's doing subconsciously. He's not able to rectify it because it's something that constantly keeps happening. He's hitting the curbing really early. Doesn't do it that time though, so maybe he's starting to listen to us, but we'll see. If he can actually rectify that last final corner mistake, he could probably catch up to Alex Kiedis and Dara ahead.
He would have had the pace, I'd say, to be comfortably ahead and into 4th position if it wasn't just for that repeated mistake, and I'm sure it's something that he'll work on and try and get back. Thankfully for him, this track's being demolished and we won't be using it, to my understanding, in this series again, so he won't have to deal with that final corner anymore. And here is Alex Daly in 8th position, Justin Bryce just a little bit behind him. Here's actually a wonderful feature on these Downunder series broadcasts. We can actually see the webcam of the 333 car, and he's got VR going on there. Ooh. No one can tell him that spatial awareness isn't very good, as he can look to the left and right of him and just look at how much he's having to fight that wheel as he heads through here into Sector 3. And that's something that I always think R-Factor 2 doesn't do a great deal of actually showing you, is how much they're having to fight the force feedback in the car itself, as it doesn't translate very well into the spectator cameras.
Yeah, I mean, R-Factor 2's got an amazing tyre model, hasn't it? And you just saw he attacked the curbing on the second chicane at turn 6 and 7, and you could see the wheel just fighting and bouncing away as he struggled to keep control of it. So amazing feedback and amazing feeling coming through that setup that he's got there. Oh, and he tries to apply the power on the back straight. Doesn't go too well for him as he gets back up to speed now, but now he's got Craig Stoddard alongside. He battled for 9th place. He's lost that position firmly as Stoddard clears him, and you've got Mark Young going through as well at the same time, so that's a loss of 2 positions simply from a small mistake exiting that turn 4. That's how important it is.
Absolutely, and now trying to get back up into that 10th position. Craig Stoddard just ahead of him, you can see in 10th or younger. We see Craig Stoddard. It's Bryce Brazier and a right old gaggle. I think actually there might be a little bit of damage on that 333, because you can see already he's struggling. I don't know where he'd have picked that damage up, but look at how he's struggling to the car behind as well. And we saw how much he's, of course, having to fight the wheel is a pretty natural thing. It
could be the tyres. I mean, if he's overcooked them at some point, maybe a lock-up coming into one of the heavy braking zones, that could start to become a real big problem now. Of course, we do have tyre vibrations. That'll affect the turning ability, which is really important on these V8 supercars. If your front tyres are dead, you may as well forget it. You're going to be at least a second off the pace, if not more so, especially at a high-speed course like this. So that could be the situation. I'm only guessing, same as you, as he could have damage at the same time. I haven't seen any contact with him specifically, but we could be wrong. We could have missed it, of course.
Because there we see Craig Stoddard doing a rallying turn as Justin Bryce falls into the clutches of Justin Bryce, and it's just fine margins like that around this circuit. Alex Kiedis is into the pits. I hope that's a scheduled pit stop. It's a couple of minutes early, perhaps, going for a bit of an undercut, and I also hope he didn't have anything to do with those yellow flags in Sector 2. But here you can see Craig Stoddard just falling back a little bit from Mark Young after that mistake that he made. It was only a minor mistake, as he sort of cooked the rear tyres through that hairpin that we've just seen them go through on the next lap. But 2.4 seconds is, well, this is the gap to the next car for Mark Young, isn't it? And I think it's about 1.5 seconds behind him. Not going to be the easiest to defend off, but at the moment he's going along nicely in 8th position, and it looks like Craig Stoddard's got Justin Bryce to worry about before he thinks about the car ahead. And there is the lockup, and there might be the opportunity for Justin Bryce to pull alongside. He just about survives.
Just going back to Mark Young slightly, he has had a really good second half of the championship. Things started off a bit worse for Wares as they all slightly touched the grass there in this three-way fight. But as the season has progressed, we're getting larger and larger point hauls from that young driver, and he's now sitting in P5 in the championship. Took home some nice podium positions in the last race at Sandown as well. So he is on a real good improvement in the last few rounds. Sitting in P8 for now, which isn't the best tally you could wish for, but of course it's still 20 minutes left in this race. It's all can be done.
And another race to come, but here is a lot. He's going deep there, and Justin Bryce goes through, and the next car behind him goes through as well. Jacob Frazier gets past Craig Stoddard, and now I think there's going to be, is that Kidas out of the pits, I believe? Not too sure, but Stoddard falls behind. So that was Frazier that Stoddard falls behind, yep. Unless Kidas has gone on to the previous lap. It looks like a
yeah, Alex Kidas has believe he's coming to the pits, so he is a lap down, but once all these guys serve their stops, of course they'll all be for position. So he's still going for it. He's still going for these overtakes because, of course, it all is fair in love and war. He still knows that these are for position, and Alex Kidas down the inside there into the chicane.
And here's the crucial thing for Kidas as well, because I didn't quite expect a pit stop to lose you a full lap around this circuit. I suppose it is only a 58-second lap. But Kidas now has gone for the early pit stop. He's jumped the gun quite early, but now he's got everyone behind him. He's in traffic, and it's not going to be long before he starts seeing blue flags and things, unless he can keep that pace up on those new tyres, which you would expect him to do. Look at immediately how easy overtaking is for him, as can quite get past Justin Bryce there, but he is certainly hounding the car ahead of him, the number 333. A little bit of a light up of the rear tyres on the exit of the corner, but Kidas certainly looking to get through as soon as possible, because all he's doing at the moment is losing time despite being on the newer tyres to those ahead of him. Still no sign of the likes of Wayne Walker, Stephen White, Craig Broadbent pitting just yet. Alex Kidas will certainly be hoping that they come into the pits very soon indeed, because at the moment all he's doing is losing time.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the pace difference in between these two cars now. It's almost like Justin Bryce is standing still, which of course he's not. He's actually on pace for the rest of the grid at the moment. They just haven't got new tyres yet, so it is a massive advantage. But I agree with you, that is a very early pit stop there by Alex Kidas. He's obviously trying to find a way to gain some ground on the competition and maybe hoping to go defensive in the second half of the race, but of course that means he's got to put in the groundwork right now, get past Justin Bryce as soon as possible to increase that gap. Otherwise, if he's just sitting idle in this traffic on those new tyres, he's wasting energy, he's wasting time. That's not what he needs to do right now.
Absolutely echo that, and 17th position of course isn't what we're looking at the moment with Alex Kidas, but it looks like he's not quite able to get through, as onto the grass once more goes Frazier just behind here, and finally down into turn one. And I think there actually that was a little bit of gentlemanly conduct from Bryce there, as he let through Kidas into turn one, or rather conceded the position. I'm not sure if it's a total let through, but very reasonable move as we go back to Wayne Walker into the pits. And this is crucial now, because this is going to see if White continues, which White does continue, and will now have that lap of clean air. The question is, will Wayne Walker come out into traffic, and will he lose those 7/10 of a second? This has got to be the fastest in lap, or fastest couple of laps before he comes into the pits, of Stephen White's season so far. Perhaps this is where really you've just got to start pumping in qualifying laps, even if your tyres aren't the greatest in the world. We'll keep an eye on Wayne Walker, who's still into the pits. Broadbent into the pits as well. A flurry of pit stops throughout the top 10. We'll also keep an eye on Alex Kidas, who down in 13th position now is making up a couple of positions. Walker still in the box.
Oh, Walker's getting boxed in. He's got a lot of traffic coming by. He can't get out of his box. He's ready. Believe he's ready to go, but he just can't move. Now he gets going, Wayne Walker. So that was a really bad way. He could not be released from his pit box. He would have crashed into all of the traffic coming down pit lane. Very short window of opportunity here. Only one lane of traffic coming down. There's no high or low lane here as far as I'm aware. But he's now coming to the end of pit lane. The limiter will be released very soon where we've got the two marshals. Where is Stephen White though? He's coming into pit lane himself. So he's gone in one lap after. But will it have been enough to miss this traffic jam that is now occurring inside pit lane?
He will hope so. It's a very busy, very small pit lane. Wayne Walker perhaps inheriting the lead once again. The question will be whether he can get round before we see Stephen White back out onto the track. Here is Wayne Walker, 4th position at the moment. The car ahead of him, I believe, not having boxed yet. Yes, there's Paul Robinson. He started well outside of the top 10, if I'm not mistaken there. So Walker should be able to get back through on him. 5th position at the moment. It's all going to be about when Stephen White gets out of the pit stop. 7/10 of a second was the margin, the delta that he needed to get back on the race leader, on the champion. And as we mentioned, still stationary as Walker comes around the final couple of corners. This is going to be so close, isn't it? As it's such a slow pit speed. Can Wayne Walker get ahead? Down into turn 1 he goes. Is Stephen White out of the pits? I don't think the pit line can come early enough for the number 871 car. He's not out of the pits just yet, and it looks like Walker is going to get on through, I believe.
In fact, I think Stephen White's gone further towards Craig Broadbent at the moment. That is the car that is now within striking distance. I said earlier in this race that Craig Broadbent is really good when it comes to pit stop strategy. He's a few tenths off those front running paces like Wayne Walker, but he knows how to play the game, and he's done it brilliantly this time around. Once again, he's only shy by just a second. He needs to get those tyres up to temperature now if he wants to keep this in fight for second.
Yes, absolutely. Not queuing the pit stop as nicely as he would have liked, though. At that point, that could literally be down to something like RNG and just the random numbers of it, or even how you get out of the pits. But 7/10 of a second, not quite a margin he's able to get through, and perhaps just need a little bit more luck through the pit stop cycles. Here is Craig Broadbent trying to attack Stephen White now, and he'll be eyeing up a second position here as he sets the fastest lap of the race the previous time by 59.4. He's actually only the second driver by my reckoning who's been able to get into those 59s, and look at that for a setup as well. That is a monitor that's going to give you a great deal of awareness around, and I hope he's not prone to eye strain because sitting very close there. But what a setup, and he's got the Simhub dash there as well.
Yeah, he's definitely got all the tools as Craig Broadbent as he tries to make his way around the circuit. He's getting up to speed, it seems. However, Stephen White doing an even better job than himself at the moment. It seems that he's slowly starting to pull away from Craig. Gap now to 1.5 seconds as we come into the second half of the race now. 16 minutes remaining in the first sprint race of this evening. Look at them using all of the available tarmac. Billy Ebenheiser traditionally taking a bit of grass with him for good measure. And yeah, coming down to the first corner and the chicane now, and it looks like maybe Stephen's going to run into a bit of trouble. This could be an opportunity for Broadbent. Looks like maybe Ashley Cutchy causing him to slow down ever so slightly. No, it actually didn't. Looking at the delta we've got, it seems that Cutchy got out of the way perfectly in time. In fact, it might now cost Craig a bit of problems as they go into the braking zone of the next few corners. Big puffs of smoke coming from the white Mustang as he tries to make way for Stephen White, who's on the outside line. And I don't think he's actually repaired the issue on that car, personally.
Perhaps not, is causing him a little bit of bother, isn't it, at the moment? Though the question would be, say for instance, I mean, tyres already are losing you best part of a lap. Do you really want to repair and lose yet another lap when you can just press on with 15 minutes to go? I think that's going to be the... is that? Yep. It's the same car. Poor old Billy is having a few issues, and this time he's slammed into the wall trying to catch up to Ashley Cutchy.
And White setting a new fastest lap there, 59.4. So he's really pushing now. He's got that fresh rubber on. He's starting to push those tyres to the limit. And the gap currently 1.2 seconds. So that it's not that great a margin at all there for Wayne Walker, the defending champ. He's going to have to give it everything if he's going to retain the lead of this race. Because Stephen White is definitely putting in the challenge now. He's going to start pushing.
Yes, and he's got to start pushing, as it's the most important thing with 14 minutes to go. You know that you've managed to extend the first stint. The tyres shouldn't be in too much strife towards the end of this race. They might be feeling a little bit worse for wear, but you shouldn't be in any region of losing too much lap time compared to those around you. Here is Stephen White looking to go absolutely hammer and tongue now until the very last moment. The question as well, has that lap extra is it going to give him a little bit of a tyre advantage as we head towards the end of the race?
That's the best camera angle ever, isn't it? You can just see the commitment there from Stephen White, really going sideways, exiting turn 4. He's trying to extract every ounce of performance from this car right now. And already that gap down by an extra 2 tenths coming into the next set of corners. So we're going to have a battle on our hands, that's for certain.
A huge battle indeed, just waiting for that gap to get under that 1 second mark, and then it's all going to be about Stephen White, as I mentioned earlier. Not the easiest place to overtake, it's becoming quite evident. My assumptions at first being that it's going to be one of those places where it looks difficult to overtake, but you actually can do it. It looks very difficult indeed now, but it's going to be all about how he can force Wayne Walker into a mistake, though the man who has won more races than you can count this year, perhaps forcing him into a mistake is going to be a little bit more difficult than you would think.
Yeah, on board with Wayne Walker now as we get the rear camera view of Stephen White giving chase. He's still maintaining it. It seems that he's maybe got the message now that Stephen White is on his way and he's starting to pick up the pace himself. Last lap times both identical, pretty much bar a tenth. It's 59.9 for Wayne Walker, 59.9 for Stephen White as well. So it's a hundredth of a point of a second between these two guys on the last lap. So this is going to be all about consistency, looking after those tyres. And of course, Stephen White has the advantage of that slipstream as well.
Absolutely incredible to watch, isn't it? Two drivers absolutely going for each other's throats, essentially. And to only be at a hundredth or two of a second in between each other's lap times, it is wonderful to watch. Even if they aren't side by side going through corners where you shouldn't be going side by side and things like that, this is probably, in my eyes, just as incredible. As absolutely nothing separating the two of them at the moment. This is really when it comes down to just being consistent and hoping the guy ahead of you makes a mistake. 2 tenths of a second on this lap is something that I want to have a look at. It's about 1/10 of a second. I apologise. It looked like it was going closer to that 8 tenths of a second mark between the two of them. Well, Stephen White at the moment still pressing away.
Yeah, while that it's going to take some time, I imagine, for that to come down. We do have a few other battles starting to unfold. Mark Young and Jacob Fraser going for 6th place as they come out of turn 4. Slipstream will be in Jacob's favour as they come down towards the next set of corners now. But will it be enough to close that gap? We've also got a fight for P12 and 13 as well. But we'll stick with these guys for the time being as they come down to the braking zone. Mark Young still leading the way in his Holden there for the number 7. And just looking for an opportunity there in the Mustang, which looks to be closing ever so slightly. It's now down to 0.2 seconds coming into the next set of corners.
All about just pressing Mark Young now, who is probably in a little bit of discomfort having that number 17 machine absolutely breathing down his neck. Headlights ablaze as well, a slight bit of a lock-up into the final corner on this circuit, and I'm not sure it was a lock-up because you're applying brakes into that. I think it's more of a lock-up because just putting so much stress onto those front tyres heading through that corner, leaning on them quite heavily down into the heavy braking zone of 2 and 3. Frazier still behind 5 tenths of a second. As I said, this is where he's just hoping for a mistake from Young ahead of him, and he's got to show his nose at every opportunity to try and press him into that mistake. These two battling for 6th position. There was at one stage a battle all the way through into 4th. Here's something else I want to notice. It's a slight bit of a tangent, but Alex Kiedis, who was here holding that 4th position for a very long time, has lost out. He's now down in 10th position. There is someone round at the top of your picture. It's Daly, I believe.
Yeah, it is Daly. He's had a bit of a visit to the grass, but now back underway. Alex Kidas looking to take advantage of this situation as he finds himself on the rear bumper. Tries to go down the inside or try to get the undercut by cutting the corner early, but that backfires as the curb unsettles that purple or orange, sorry, Mustang.
There's Daly now finding himself under pressure from the other Alex in this field, Alex Kidas, and this is going to be a huge battle indeed. Two people will be feeling like they should be a little bit further up the order than they are. Of course, Kidas hasn't thrown away a fourth position here, but his pit stop strategy just not being the most favourable to him, unfortunately. Though I suppose sometimes you have to take gambles, and they don't always work out. 0.6 of a second, a slight mistake from Alex Daly into that hairpin has given Kidas just that couple of tenths of a second that he needs to try and get back through. This is going to be so close indeed, as is this battle, which is now only 0.4 of a second separating the number 07 and the number 17. Frazier just still behind, and with 9 minutes to go, his time is running out.
Yeah, those new tyres will start to show signs of wear now. I mean, we've had at least anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes of good running time on this particular set, depending on when the guys came into the pit stop. Potentially looking, no, I thought he was going to send it down the inside there, because we mentioned that is a potential opportunity. If you get close enough, just overspeed the car into that next corner is a potential overtake, but thinks better of it. And Mark Young's still doing older. He's actually starting to extend that gap now, 0.6 seconds where it was 0.2 just a few laps ago. So he's starting to pick up the pace now and give chase to the next car ahead, which will be Brett Gooden. But that's going to be a big ask, because that's a further 14 seconds ahead. So you can see the different types of pace that we're seeing here. You know, fine margins can create big gaps as Jacob goes completely sideways, goes Tokyo drift mode into turn 8 around the outside of the corner, leaves very sideways tyre marks for good measure before continuing underway. But that's going to cost him a lot of time, because now those tyres will be overheating and cooking alive.
And I'm afraid to say that perhaps, though he's still within a second, I was going to say that perhaps that is just his chance at the move extinguished with that slight mistake. And I also want to note that the actual lap times throughout the field is so close. Essentially everyone is within a second of each other, which is extremely impressive, given that everyone is battling and having their own battles and things. Everyone within either the 1 minute, so the mid 1 minutes, or the sort of low to mid 1 minute 01s. Everyone's best lap is either a 59 or a mid 1 minute flat. Everyone here is on such close pace. The only three people really who are faster than the rest are the top three.
Yeah, Wayne Walker is still trying to hold off Stephen White up at the front end here. The gap has kind of fluctuated between 0.8 seconds all the way up to 1.2-ish, thereabouts. Stephen White still holding that fastest lap, although last lap by he was 0.5 seconds slower. So he's clearly pushing that car to its limits, and maybe just a few mistakes starting to come in where those tyres are starting to change. So whereas one lap before the tyre would have held through that corner at a certain speed, of course that degradation is starting to change that, and he's having to adapt as the race unfolds. He's got 6 minutes left, might be able to close the gap, but Wayne Walker is firmly switched on now, and he's certainly extracting all he can from his Mustang now.
Sort of blink and you misses, isn't it? As they were so close, and we were saying how they're having that sort of titanic battle of exchanging blows of a couple of hundredths of a second. All of a sudden, Wayne Walker just extending that gap ever so slightly, and perhaps there was a mistake we haven't seen from Stephen, or something of the sort. He was just about 0.6 of a second back on the previous lap, which I think might go to explain that. But with 5 minutes to go, it looks like, or 6 minutes really, 5 minutes 50, it looks like 32 laps so far completed by Wayne Walker. As you summarised, Matt, it looks like Wayne has this in hand at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that gap now up to 2 seconds. So although Stephen has been pushing and closing that gap, I fear that he may have overcooked those tyres. But we now have a battle here for 5th place, Brett Gooden and Mark Young. So I believe Brett Gooden may have run into some trouble, because the gap the last time we mentioned it was at about 14 seconds, if I recall. That's a large portion of time to lose in such a quick window. So yeah, but obviously Mark Young now in a position to attack. Jacob Frazier also within shooting distance. He's P7, just a further 0.9 seconds behind, and all to play for now with 5 minutes remaining.
Absolutely all to play for, and a big battle for this 5th position, 0.2 of a second. Is there going to be an opportunity for Mark Young to just throw one down the inside, heading down into turn 1, into that braking zone of turn 2 and turn 3? Stays behind at the moment, and they're almost tailgating each other, and he tries to get alongside. He's going to force him into a mistake, and that is a huge moment in this race, as now Mark Young able to try and have a look down the inside, but he just runs out to the slipstream and runs out of the straight line speed as well. A chance to go down the inside though into the heavy braking zone of, I believe this is turn 5, still alongside, just about gets ahead, and that is a massive overtake. He gets through into 5th position, and now this is going to give Frazier an opportunity to get through on Gooden as well. He's alongside down into one of the next hairpins, and they make contact, and it's almost a spin from Brett Gooden, but Frazier letting him know he's there, let's say.
Yeah, that was a good move there from Mark Young. Set the car up perfectly on the run down to turn 4. It was a massive send onto the curb. Drifted sideways but held it nicely, and of course going around the outside that would have given it the advantage into the second portion of that sector. So, and of course Jacob tried to maximise on the opportunity but wasn't able to do so. Brett Gooden not going to lose 2 positions in one go at this stage of the race, but there's still a chance for him to come back, a chance for him to retaliate. It's only 0.3 seconds within these 3 cars as they come down towards the heavy braking zone now. Absolutely, and can Gooden just throw one back down the inside and get that 5th position back from Mark Young? You can see that it's so close between the 3 of them that the R-Factor 2 overlay is just throwing between the gap behind and the gap ahead every couple of seconds now. 3 minutes to go. By my reckoning, that is about 3 laps at current pace, perhaps 2.5, depending on how far behind Wayne Walker they actually are when all is said and done. But Brett Gooden now, my question would be, do you go all out and try and put a move on Matt Young ahead, or do you start defending from Jacob Frazier? Because if you are in a train like this, sometimes a miscued move on the guy ahead can lose out a great deal of time. Yellow flags in sector 2, and I can't see who stopped on my timing screen, but yellow flags for a brief moment there. Someone has run out of road. Frazier though, 0.2 of a second, surely an opportunity to throw one down the inside. He thinks about it, and I think he's going to do it. Down the inside he goes from a mile back. Jacob Frazier just about gets the car stopped and just about gets the move through. He's quite lucky that the chicane actually is as tight as it is, because he went very deep there. I think he was praying for the car to slow down at that point. Oh, and no! He's overcooked the tyres massively. Brett Gooden almost followed him in the process because he's pushing as well, and it manages to get the place back. But yeah, I think the error there was that Jacob really did push that Mustang beyond what the tyres were capable of doing at this stage of the race. Yeah, he just went onto the grass, probably dirtied that left front tyre. That's what was needed for the next corner in which he went off at, and so that's where it all went wrong for him, I believe. Yes, definitely all went wrong for him, and he'll be frustrated because he had that move done, essentially. There was nothing that anyone behind could have done. He was through, and unfortunately just miscuing it. 1 minute and 30 to go then. By my reckoning, again, that's about a lap and a half. Walker probably on his penultimate lap now, I think it's probably safe to say. And as we press on, we see Alex Daly trying to hold up Justin Bryce in that 333 machine. 0.7 of a second, you suggest that probably going to be able to hold on to that at the moment is Alex Daly. Just one more good lap and he's home dry. At this halfway stage then in the event, Matt, as we head into race 2, what are your takeaways so far? As I'm actually going to stop that question because we've got a battle on our hands for a moment as we see these two scrapping it out. This is Cucci and Robinson, I believe. Yeah, it is, yeah. And they've got just... I'm just going back to Wayne Walker to and throwing because, of course, we are going to be on the final lap now. There's only 30 seconds remaining, so any moves that are going to be made now need to be done immediately. Oh, Cucci going a bit sideways coming into the next set of corners. Robinson trying to open the door but not able to do so. Next set of corners may present an opportunity as puffs of smoke coming from the white Mustang, but Robinson has to wait for another opportunity. Where is Wayne Walker in the grand scheme of things? Because he is now on his final lap. The gap up to 3.2 seconds. So Stephen White, despite his charge earlier on, would have cooked those tyres, and that's what we're seeing. He's starting to pull away. He's looked after that set of compounds, and he's been able to hold off the competition once again. So Wayne Walker now navigating through the last few corners here, coming into Sector 3. And he's going to extend his championship lead. Is anyone going to be able to stop this guy? He's pretty much been in charge for the last 7 races in a row, despite the best efforts of everyone involved. Wayne Walker coming across the start-finishing line for the 8th time in a row this season, 2022 V8 Supercar Championship, adds another one to his tally there.
Absolutely, 8th time in a row. Is there anyone stopping Wayne Walker? I don't think there is at this stage, and that number 1 car indicates he was the champion in the previous series as well. Here's Stephen White across the line making a bit of a mistake, and I think perhaps just symbolising him throwing the towel into the ring, but everyone else comes on through, and it was such a good race. Wayne Walker didn't have it easy, as Craig Broadbent has crossed the line as well into 3rd position. Wayne Walker didn't have it easy. He had it a little bit difficult, actually, in those pit stops. We thought there was a bit of strife for a moment. But at the end of the day, this man has now won the 8 races in a row, plus 2 at the start of the season. That makes it 10 of the 20 races so far he has won.
Yeah, it's again, I don't think there's anyone that can catch him now. I mean, I'm not sure of how many points Bar First and the other rounds will award. However, I feel pretty certain that it's going to be a really tough ask. He would have to DNF for a few rounds in order for anyone to catch him, and I don't think Wayne Walker, that's in his style. He's certainly one for consistency and getting some points on the board every single round. He's only had 1 DNF, and that was because of an internet issue. So, you know, it's... I don't want to announce it because, of course, you never know what's going to happen in the remainder of the season, but I think this is his championship. It's been like that for some time now, and the second half of the season has definitely cemented that.
Let's go to the race results then, ahead of the end of this first race here from Auckland. And what a first race to start to close out this particular racetrack as well. As just waiting for those to get pulled up now. Throughout the field, there were a few interesting battles. Matt Ogg was battling all race long after that first lap incident. He actually ended up finishing 10th position there, Matt Ogg, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Wayne Walker wins, as is becoming a little bit of a custom in this series so far this year. He wins by a good couple of seconds in the end from Stephen White in 2nd position, who actually fought quite valiantly but just falls short at the end. Craig Broadbent, who set the fastest lap on the server, wasn't quite able to convert that on the day and finishes in 3rd position. And it's Hayden Darroch in 4th. Mark Young finishes in 5th position with Brett Gooden in 6th. Alex Daly finishes 7th with Justin Bryce just behind him in 8th. Craig Stoddard finishes in 9th in the end with Matt Ogg in 10th. As for the rest of the field, Billy Ebenhauser, after having a couple of incidents into the grass, finishes in 11th position. Sean Stafford finishes in 12th. Ashley Kutchi finishes in 13th position with Paul Robinson in 14th. Alex Kidas miscued the pit stop strategy, I'm afraid to say, and finishes in 15th. Then it's Jacob Frazier from John Slow, and that rounds out the grid here from Auckland.
Yeah, I think Alex Kidas, he's going to take those lessons learned into the next round. Again, he's been one person that's going further and further up the order the more races he participates in. So fingers crossed he can convert that into some championship points, which are needed at this stage. And also, Jacob Frazier, he ran into some big problems. Of course, we saw him fighting in the top 10 in the final few positions, or final few minutes, of this race. But in the last few moments, it seems to just fall away, and I'm not too sure what happened.
As not long as well until we get straight into the second race And I think that's a bit harsh on the drivers, to be honest with you, Matthew. It's, if I've driven 40 minutes, I don't think I'd want to get straight back into the car. But these guys can manage it, and it's all going to be about predictions for this second race now, I guess. As it's sort of a pit stop, get back out, and go again.
Yeah, they only get a 5-minute warm-up session or warm-down session. Not many cars out on track. In fact, no cars out on track at the moment trying to test their tyres or anything. They're well accustomed to what they need to do for the next round. They'll take the lessons learnt from the results. Of course, it's the same grid as before from the first round, so any advantages or positions gained they will be able to keep for the next starting grid, which is nice. Feature for the championship. They do that in real life too, I believe. And yeah, it's all about catapulting forward again and using that advantage to score even more points.
A reminder of the calendar then, as this is the Auckland Sprint. We'll go to the second race of that in just a moment. 1 minute 50 left in the warm-up session. Then it's the Bathurst 1000, the big one, next on the 8th of October. Then the Gold Coast on the 29th. That's round 12 of the championship. Then it's the Adelaide 500 on the 13th. The round 13 on the 3rd of December, and that rounds out the season. That's a 500-mile race, which should be very interesting indeed.
Yes, a hefty way to finish, isn't it? All the endurance races at the back end. We did have Townsville Enduro, which is the only one. All the other ones prior to that have been sprint races. So to end on a high, should we say, especially Bathurst, that's going to be one of my all-time favourites, that's for sure. And I look forward to seeing the guys go toe-to-toe in that one. No mistakes are going to be allowed there, that's for sure. And to last for so long, that's going to be an extra challenge on top of that. But we'll run through the results just one more time, just have them on screen for those of you just joining us. We have another 50 seconds before we go into the next race, and more action to be had before we sign off for this evening, that's for sure.
So Wayne Walker wins the race with Stephen White in second. Craig Broadbent finishes in third. Hayden Darroch, Mark Young, Brett Gooden, Alex Daly rounded out the top 7, and then as for the rest of the top 10, it's Bryce, Stoddard and Og. And as for the second page of results,
sorry, it's delayed. It's delayed.
Fair enough. As it's Ebenhauser, Stafford, Kutchi, Robinson, Kidas, Frazier, and Slow. As the R-Factor 2 overlay.
It's nice when it works, but sometimes it just has a mind of its own. So there we go. But it's working now.
Best and the worst. In the,
There's only so many times I can click the next page.
I know. It's horrendous, honestly. The worst one is when you do longer endurance events and it starts to lag. And, it's an absolute nightmare. Anyway, quickly, before we get to the start of this next race, they start to grid up. Prediction for the top 3, Matthew.
Well, I mean, Walker's always been there, hasn't he? I mean, Stephen White, he always puts on a good show, as does Craig Broadbent. So it'll all be about who can control the start, as always. You know, if he can get away and break that slipstream, then that person will be in control of the race. That's what we see most of the time. And, you know, from what I've seen this race, it's either going to be Stephen White or Wayne Walker up top, followed by one or the other, you know, because obviously they're fighting each other, and then rounded out by Craig Broadbent, provided he doesn't run into any issues.
Absolutely. And I think Wayne Walker, perhaps the favourite, let's say, as we get ready for the grid here for another 40 minutes of racing from Auckland. Wayne Walker, the number 1 car in the pits at the moment, making sure his wheels plugged in. I did that starting from pole position in a race in the week. Had to retire before it had even started. But here we go then. On pole position, Wayne Walker, Stephen White alongside him. We'll be looking to get the jump into turn 1. The question is, can he do it? They've got 5 seconds till the start of this race. And we go to green running in Auckland for the second time, and it's a perfect start from Stephen White, who's really going to be able to challenge Wayne Walker into turn 1. In fact, he gets the jump into turn 1 exactly as he would have wanted. It was a bit of a treacherous start from Wayne Walker, and Stephen White gets the move into turn 1. Here's a battle a little bit further back, as just making contact is a couple of people further through the field. It's Matt Gooden, I think, having a battle with Broadbent here.
Yeah, he got off to a really bad start. Of course, starting third on the grid, he's now back down into P5. Settles in between Brett Gooden and Justin Bryce at the start of the first lap. So he's lost a few positions already, and of course that is not good news for him. He's second place in the standings. So although it's a tall tally already, but even that's going to hurt him even further. You've got Mark Young giving chase to Justin Bryce. It's all happening in the early stages. Contact back in the previous corner. Alex Kidas leading this pack of 5 to 6 cars or so, and they all seem to slow down for the same piece of tarmac and exchanged paint in the process. Nobody span round and able to continue on though.
Allswell, that is Enswell, I think, is the who's going slow as that out of, and he's that's what's happened. He's gone into the wall. I think surely it's that mistake that he's unfortunately been making for quite a while so far, and you can see that car absolutely crumpled, and I suggest it's going to be over for him. Well, he's continuing going, but it's going to be all but over for him. A lot of ground to make up now, but the crucial news out of the first lap of this race is that Stephen White has led us away, and now it's going to be a tall task for Wayne Walker to get back up to him. It's again going to be about the pit stops, I would suggest here. And what I really want to keep an eye on is the fact that Wayne Walker, now on an 8-race winning streak, is going to have it all up against him for once.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it's broken, isn't it? We've been saying, can anyone stop this man? And it seems that Stephen White, for the time being, at least at the start of this second race, has the answer for us. Hayden Darrett is sticking to the back end of that purple Mustang as well. He's staying at least half a second off that rear bumper. Brett Gooden has Craig Broadbent for company. This is a 4-car train before you see the next flurry of vehicles behind, and we'll see who can close that gap. Hopefully the 4 cars will slowly come together, but we'll see.
We'll see indeed, as Walker just trying to close that gap ever so slightly. Again, he's as close to the car ahead as he is the car behind, as you can see by the overlay, occasionally switching between the two of them. 7/10 of a second to Hayden Darragh behind, of course, who capitalised on Craig Broadbent's pretty terrible start, it has to be said. Darragh actually trying to battle Brett Gooden as well, who's just behind him. So this top 4 or so, top 5 as well, with Broadbent just a little bit behind them, 1.1 seconds. They're all just sort of in a bit of a pack that's as far from each other as they are the car ahead, as Wayne Walker sets the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap. But we know overtaking here, not the easiest of feats, as Justin Price trying to attack Mark Young now. We go to the camera of Justin in the number 333, just a little bit further behind as he was than he was heading into that corner. I think that little squirrely moment just costing him ever so slightly. Trying to keep these cars poised onto the brakes is so difficult. You can see a full-on motion seat there as well from Justin. Very immersive.
You saw as he attacked that inside curve, that's what cost him a few tenths or so. You saw his entire setup start to shake. That must be a really immersive experience there from Justin Bryce in that Holden. But yeah, Mark Young able to get away now after that small little mistake. It was down to 0.1 seconds. He was really on the tail of Mark Young, and that was going for P6 in this particular race, but he's got all the work to do again once more.
Absolutely all of the work to do again. 1 second is that gap. Now here's a gap between Sean Stafford and Paul Robinson. It's down to a few tenths of a second. Paul Robinson certainly will be looking to attack for those top 10 positions. He's got someone breathing down his neck as well. That's Jacob Frazier in the Team 23 car. As you can see, trying to find an opportunity here and actually going for the opportunity, I believe. Here goes Robinson on Stafford down the inside, can't quite find the extra braking performance, and just about holds on does Stafford for the moment, with 35 minutes of racing still to come here. Really under a lot of pressure. Robinson does not want to be hanging around, and we see going down this sort of short shoot section down into the next braking zone, can't quite find the room to go for the move, and he's just going to have to stay behind for the moment and bide his time. There's no need not to be patient here. Down into turn 1, it's a very fast corner. I don't think turn 2 and 3 are really big overtaking opportunities. Will he go for a quick move? He doesn't. Onto the brakes, just make sure he is out of any trouble And this is all about patience, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in a train like this, you have to pick your moments very wisely. If you decide to go for an overtake and it doesn't end up the way you wished it had, then of course you open the door for the cars that are behind, and you could find yourself losing positions instead of gaining, as he just has a tiny look down the inside as we approach the braking zone at turn 5. So yeah, you're right, he has to pick his moments very carefully. He has to be patient and just read the road ahead as much as possible.
Absolutely, and make sure you react to anything that's going on to the cars ahead of you as well. Yellow flags in sector 2 for a brief moment, and oh, that's why, as I believe that could be Brett Gooden, not Brett Gooden, sorry. It must be someone else. Ashley Kutchi is into the pits, I believe retired from the race as well, unfortunately, Ashley, but couldn't quite see who it was that had that spin for a moment there. It was perhaps Mads Ogg. No, wrong colour car. He's down in 16th anyway. There's struggles throughout the field, I guess, for a few people here. Brett Gooden.
Oh, we've got a spat away. Sorry, Craig Broadbent down the inside, down into turn 5. He manages to get the position, and that's 4th place. Brett Gooden coming back, though. They're still side by side, back into position once again. Craig just couldn't get the car turned in for the next set of corners, and Brett Gooden down the inside, able to take advantage of that. But it seems that he's trying to make his way back up into those podium positions, but just can't seem to find the track space.
It was a huge move, wasn't it? As now Wayne Walker pressurising Stephen White for the lead of the race. This is going to be a battle that's very interesting indeed. You've got the man who has got a great deal of pace versus the man with absolutely the best pace in this at this track so far in this race weekend. Of course, not on the server, as that crown goes to Craig Broadbent with a 58.6. But Wayne Walker, probably, I'd say, the pace of the field, as evidenced by that first race. But the question is, can Stephen White hold on here? He's got a long time to hold on, hasn't he, at 32
traffic ahead, that's
minutes.
Ashley Kutchi. Can he get out of the way?
He's going to cause it. Yeah,
I'm hoping so, because of course, he's gone. Okay, that's one way to do it, but okay. The last lap times for you then: Stephen White is a 1 minute 0.6, Wayne Walker 1 minute 0.4. Only 2 tenths advantage, but that's all he needs to close the gap down to that holding ahead. Fastest laps belongs to Wayne Walker for this particular race at this moment, but it's only 0.02 of a second faster than Stephen White's best as well. So these two completely evenly matched coming into the next lap. And it's all to play for before. I think we still have another 10 to 12 minutes left of racing before we come to our first pit window.
Absolutely, and it's going to be all make or break really for Stephen White more than Wayne Walker, as you suspect that it's going to be Wayne Walker being the favourite to get past here at some stage. Not to take anything away from Stephen White, as I was saying, he will just be wanting to, from his perspective, just wanting to hit his marks here. It's never easy being a driver who's at the head of a field, who's got a lot of pace and probably the second best pace in the field. But you've got someone like Wayne Walker just behind you, breathing down your neck. And look at the gap between them and the rest of the field. Stephen White doing in this race what he couldn't quite do in that first one. And I think he will know just how big of an opportunity it is to break that winning streak of Wayne Walker.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to at this moment in time. He's just got to make sure he looks after those tyres. Wayne Walker, on the other hand, will know full well that by staying so close to Stephen, he's going to be cooking those front tyres. And that's going to limit his opportunities coming to the end of this particular stint. So we'll see how he manages that and see what options he's going to take. He's very close this time by, coming down to turn 5. He's looking down the inside as it is in that Mustang. Thinks better of it. Yeah, Stephen White equally going deep into the braking zone. These guys are just so evenly matched. It's brilliant to watch each and every time. We do have battles occurring further down the field as well. P4 and 5, and also for P9 through to 11. So it's all happening at the same time, where we've just got to stay with the leaders because they're so close.
They are so close indeed, and unfortunately, depending on your perspective of it, I think position priority is the call here, as it is such a close battle between these two as we head into the final 30 minutes of this race. He survived 1/3 of it so far, has Stephen White, and he, as I said, will be looking to extend the gap. But at the moment, with Wayne Walker breathing down your neck, it's not the easiest of things to do, but he's going along nicely at the moment, all the way onto the curb. The commitment is key in these cars. as they head down into the next chicane. The first right-hander, then obviously into the left-hander.
Yeah, Wayne Walker, you saw the car completely sideways. There was just forward momentum as the car was still moving to the left as he came onto the back straight. So he is definitely pushing that car right now. He's trying to overtake and take the lead of this race, which of course for Wayne Walker means he can take the initiative. He can then control the pace. He can then control who's going to enter the pits first. And it's all in his court then, like he has been used to. Whereas Stephen White now, he wants to retain that as much as possible because he's got the keys to the house, hasn't he, right now? He definitely wants to be able to maintain his position because he will be in the advantage or in the front row seat for the second half of the race. And let's be honest, that's when it all counts.
And he might have the keys to the house, but it's one of those where you can't quite get them to turn the lock quite correctly. So he's trying and looking like just standing on his doorstep trying to get the key to work, but it's not quite working for him at the moment. Is 0.2 of a second is the gap. It just sort of fluctuating between the two of them. And is that a little bit defensive from Stephen White, perhaps? Just going to the middle of the circuit for a moment to make sure that Wayne Walker stays behind and doesn't get any ideas to be a little bit audacious. I think it might have been. And I think here as well, there's Wayne Walker just behind. I think this is going to be one of those where he now has to dictate the pit stops, Wayne Walker. He needs to jump the gun on Stephen White. He can't wait to see what White does. He perhaps has to stop a lap earlier, which worked for him on the previous race. Maybe Stephen White now will be thinking, actually, I want to go a lap earlier than Wayne Walker, which then begs the question, how early do you go?
Well, I think they'll at least be waiting until there's 22 to 20 minutes remaining in this race. We've already seen that Stephen White went that lap extra last time by. That cost him an extra 2 seconds in the grand scheme of things. Almost put him under pressure from Craig Broadbent at the same time. So he's going to be wanting to avoid that similar situation, but we'll have to wait and see what Wayne does. It's all a game of chess at nearly 200 kilometers an hour, isn't it? It's remarkable that they have to think about these things at the same time while fighting for the lead of the race.
And not just at 200 kilometers an hour, it's the fact that these cars are some of the most difficult to drive in all of racing. They're also the most fun when you're throwing them around Bathurst, but some of the most difficult to drive. I'd argue far more difficult than F1 car. And oh, there goes Matt Gooden proving that, and it's a hugely treacherous moment for everyone involved. He went for the audacious dive bomb, and now he's going to let Stafford, I think it was, back through, isn't he? As that's rather sensible, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing I love about this championship in particular. The gentlemen, so many gentlemen here. If you make a genuine mistake, if you take someone else off, how many times have we seen them allowing the other person go back by, despite or regardless of how many positions that they lose themselves? It's a very is that someone off there? And John Slow had a bit of a moment coming onto the main straight, almost visited the barrier on the right hand side of the track, which would have been oversteer, but manages to save it. But yeah, always top sportsmanship in this championship. And we'll go back to the lead of the race because these guys are starting to close down once again. 0.3 seconds between them as they start coming to the end of their current lap at the moment. The lap times are so close, barely a tenth between them. Wayne Walker certainly staying on the toes, keeping Stephen White on his toes, should I say, as they come across the start-finishing line.
The interesting thing about this 40-minute race format is that you can think that you've got the race in hand, but then you've got another half to go. It is relentless from a perspective of Stephen White. It's relentless from a perspective of Wayne Walker, as there is a mistake from Stephen White, and is Wayne Walker going to try and get this slipstream? White goes defensive. Can Wayne Walker find a way through? He's certainly going to try it, as here he goes. He's going to be forced to go around the outside, brakes as late as he can, and it looks like Stephen White, who goes a little bit deep into the corner, drifting around the corner. Wayne Walker behind him. Stephen White days ahead. That was superb defensive driving.
Yeah, he's placed that car perfectly in order to defend that position. He tried everything he could, did Wayne Walker, to find a gap, and he just couldn't open the door. Stephen White holds the keys to the house for just a bit longer. I'm going to reuse that pun again. But he's coming across the start-finishing line now, and it's coming closer and closer to that pit window. 25 minutes remaining before we get to the end of this race, and just 5 minutes remaining until the first pit stops emerge.
well, at this stage, if he's holding the keys to the house, he's going down the lock switch to make sure they're still working, as he can't quite find a way through, no matter what he does. And Stephen White holding on very well indeed. That defence was so professional from him, just making sure to go to the inside when he absolutely needed to. And actually, it is weird, this corner particularly, with the geometry of it, going deep when you're defending or even attacking seems to actually help you, as it gives you the inside for the next corner.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The chicane in Sector 2. And of course, the brilliant part was that he knew that he'd made that mistake coming out of Turn 4. He instantly went low on the track to defend off that position after that small bit of wheel spin or oversteer that he experienced. He knew that that would be the opportunity that Walker was looking for. And in being able to recognise that, that's telling of an experienced racing driver there.
Absolutely telling indeed, as we get to the half distance mark in just a few moments time. 23 minutes on the clock, so 3 minutes to go before half distance. Mark Young trying to pressurise Brett Gooden still, as these two have been pretty close together all race long. And for fourth position, seems to be that fourth position, it's just a battle that's been going on throughout the two races with completely different drivers. A hint of a mistake from Brett Gooden, just a little bit of a loose moment, but not going to cost him too much time at all. I also want to bring your attention to the fact that it looks like it's 4 to 7 seconds. I can't quite tell as it's fluctuating. But when we last saw the intervals, it was 7 seconds between the leading two and everyone else in this race. Here is Mark Young still trying to press Brett Gooden. He shows his nose once more, and a mistake from Brett Gooden. If he just stuck to the inside, he probably could have got through there, Mark Young. But how is he to know, I think, is the question there. Another person I want to bring your attention to is Alex Kiedis, who would have started further down the order, I believe, and he's got himself up into 6th position at this stage. A huge drive from Kiedis, but he's got these two battling ahead of him. We'll be hoping that they can battle a little bit more and give him all of that lap time. Broadbent into the pits.
Yeah, Craig Broadbent into the pits. He's the first to commit. He's trying to go for that undercut with 22 minutes remaining. So that's worked for him before. Maybe it'll work again. We'll see. Yeah, but we've got battles up and down the order now. Wayne Walker starting to pull away, perhaps starting to indicate that he'll be entering the pits in the next lap. It's up to 0.56 seconds now before the end of this current lap. But we've got battles all the way from P4 all the way through to P11. At least someone's fighting someone throughout the entirety of the top 10, which is great to see.
Absolutely. And it's such a close battle, as we see now another close battle.
Sorry, Wayne Walker into the pits. He's gone in, but yeah, carry on with this battle. Just an important moment there for the lead of the race.
It's absolutely an important moment, and we'll see how that starts to affect Stephen White as well. But this is Craig Stoddard and Jacob Frazier, the 19 and the number 17. Frazier looking to get through and get into that 7th position and get a few more points in this race. As Jacob Frazier, looking through the standings, is looking actually he's quite far down the standings. I can't see him at the moment, but certainly looking to get himself bumped up a few spots. As unless I'm being completely blind, maybe I shouldn't look up for standings before actually seeing them. Here is
Jacob Frazier. He's a new boy on the show.
I thought so.
New boy on the block.
His first race in the championship. Then you could see there those wonderful lights in the background as well, with the Fanatec wheel pressing at the moment. Pressing very well, as there's a mistake, and this is going to allow Frazier through, surely. Craig Stoddard just about holding firm at the moment. Craig Stoddard, not a new boy to the championship, sitting down in 9th position, has raced every single race so far this season to get to 100.
Sorry, I thought he was going to go onto the grass then. So we have Craig Stoddard into the pit lane, which is fine, but then Frazier, it looked like he was going to go straight into the pit entry wall, but manages to keep it together. He's staying out on track at the moment. He actually inherits 1st place as he's going beyond everyone else at the moment. Stephen White into pit lane as well. Wayne Walker finds himself in 8th. He's just coming onto the back straight now, but will Stephen White be able to get rolling once again before he makes his way into the lead of the race? That is the question. Stephen White still stationary. He starts moving now. That's an important part, but it's a long way, and it's a slow pit lane as well, it has to be said, as they come through the next few corners. Wayne Walker navigating his way around the final bend as he comes over to the start finishing line. Is he going to take the lead, ladies and gents? Is he going to be able to take the 9th victory in a row? That is the question. Stephen White gets back up to speed, and he's done it. Wayne Walker has taken the lead of the race. There's such fine margins here, and he's exactly read that completely right, and he's been able to get ahead by at least a second.
Not a foot wrong from Stephen White all race long. He has, for the last 20 minutes, been under relentless pressure from Wayne Walker behind him, and just at the pit stops his pace proved a couple of tenths too slow, and that can literally be something going on in the pit lane, as whether you broke for the pit line too early slightly. Stephen White absolutely gutted, I imagine, but still an opportunity for him to win this race. He just suggests that it's going to be very difficult for him henceforth, and well, Wayne Walker looking to take his 9th victory now in a row, as there is a penalty for someone further through in the field.
That's Hayden Dara, so that he's been quite high in the standings. He was P5, yeah, indeed. He's been having a great race so far, until now, of course. But he was sitting in 3rd after all the pit stops had said and done, because he got a jump on Craig Broadbent to get into that position. That would have been a brilliant result there for the 53, but it's all unfolded. Not too sure why it was issued. I've got no way of finding that out, unfortunately, but that has pretty much ruined his entire day.
It's a battle going on, and this is between, I believe,
it will be
Gooden. Oh, it's 3 wide down into turn 1. This is pretty huge, and this is going to be so close. They all back out of it pretty much immediately. It looks like it's Brett Gooden who gets the better of the lot of them, but 3 wide for a moment there. Hugely impressive driving from everyone involved, and that is just incredible. Down into turn 1. For them all to be able to get through there. It's Alex Daly, wasn't it? I apologise. Not Brett Gooden. He's up in 6th position. As very similar liveried cars, those two.
Yes, we now have a 5-car train navigating its way through Sector 2 at the moment. Alex Daly is leading this particular pack of cars. And then it's Craig Stoddard, John Slow, Justin Bryce and Fraser, all on fresh tyres. So it's all about getting them up to temperature and applying some pressure in the second half of this race now. Absolutely, is a little bit of a mistake from Daly. It's going to allow perhaps Stoddard to have a look through. There's someone in the background having a huge moment, but Stoddard, can he get through down into turn 1? He's being pressurised himself by John Slow, who can't quite find the move through. And actually that just perhaps affected Stoddard there and his ability to go down the inside into turn 1, but it looks like Daly has survived yet another lap, and all of a sudden it's going to be Stoddard who's finding himself under pressure from John Slow. This is huge. Stephen White, though, fastest lap of the race, 0.5 of a second the gap to the leader for him. And now this race ebbing and flowing with battles throughout the field. Yeah, this train of cars that we're seeing here with Stoddard currently on screen at the moment, it's getting larger and larger. I mean, you've got Justin Bryce coming up at the back end. You've got Paul Robinson. He exited the pits. At the same time, these guys were going 3 wide. That must have been really interesting to watch from that side view mirror as he re-entered the racing circuit. But now they're all going to basically use the slipstream and hopefully come together to have this massive fight, all for P8. So this is amazing stuff. You know, we're not talking podium positions here. We're talking still points, but you know, for the top 10 positions, it's great to see such ferocious battles going on.
I was going to point that out, actually. We're fighting for the minor points paying positions, and they're actually battling as if it was, you know, 3 wide, battling as if it was for the lead of the race. Absolutely incredible stuff at the moment, and I suggest that it might have just settled down a little bit for the moment as they ensure that first and foremost they get to the end and don't use all of their tyres up, because that would be an embarrassing last couple of laps if you're falling further away to the cars behind. Just making sure that you first and foremost get to the end, not to use the old cliche quote, but making sure you get to the end before anything else. Looks like the car behind this battle Bryce, who made that mistake in the number 333, isn't it, Bryce?
Yes.
It looks like he might be struggling with perhaps a little bit of damage, I'd suggest, as the car just looking slightly squirrely through the turns here.
Yeah, he was on the back end of Robinson's car at the exit of his pit lane, but he seems to be dropping back. You are right. It's now up to 3.4 seconds. So unfortunately not having the best of times, but this 3 or 4-way fight is still unfolding as we speak. Craig Stoddard and John Slow looking down the inside of one another of the next car ahead. Maybe a defensive manoeuvre there from Stoddard at the same time as an offensive one, if you get what I mean. And now Paul Robinson coming onto the back end of this train of cars down the inside into turn 7. He's got alongside Jacob Frazier for 11th place coming into the final corner, but has to back out as things get a bit too twisty for his liking. He's going to have to wait for a better opportunity to emerge. And you've got 4 Mustangs all navigating the same piece of tarmac right now. And looks like Jacob may be looking to go down the inside into the next corner there.
Absolutely intelligent driving from Paul Robinson. No need to take too many risks in a race like this. Still with 13 minutes to go, but they're so close. And perhaps a look down the inside from Paul Robinson. And my word, they absolutely cannot catch a break, any of them. This would be probably some of the most fun racing they'll be going through. But at the moment, it looks like they're pretty line of stern, as there was a dive perhaps for a moment, and now a dive around the outside from Paul Robinson. Can he get alongside Frazier? He can, but when they actually make contact, and it just quells the battle for a moment. Down into that chicane seems to be actually the moment for everyone to make a move here, as they just Constantina up.
Yeah, coming down into that braking zone, that's your best opportunity. You have to really nail turn 4 exit though. That's where all of that extra kilometres an hour do count, and I think the drivers know that as well. But yeah, Robinson tried it around the outside, but just couldn't make it work. That Mustang, I mean, all of these cars are pretty wide. In fact, they do make it very challenging to get up alongside and make an overtake work, but not able to do so on that particular opportunity. Oh, a bit of a contact into the wall from Alex Daly there as he leads the pack. So slammed the left-hand side of the car into the concrete wall on the exit of turn 4. How's that going to affect his ability to fend off all of these cars from behind?
How is his ability? It's down into the chicane. He just for a moment, Daly looked in a little bit of a spot of bother, but in the end, he isn't able to get past, and he has to stay ahead of this train for the moment. A few more moments further back onto the grass and things like that. You can see, here we go, Slow and Frazier just staying behind for the moment once more, and it is so close battling between every single one of these drivers. 11 minutes and 50 seconds to go in this race, and no one in this top few can find any room to pass anyone, it appears. They're just so line of stern, so close together. And just a quick update on the gap at the front of the field. 28 seconds between Stephen White and Mark Young, but 1.5 seconds between himself and Wayne Walker. So it looks like Wayne Walker, at the moment, without commentator cursing him, on to take the 9th win in a row for that number 1 car. As we switch back to this battle, and we see Stoddard still trying to make that move. This is all going to be about that Constantina up into the chicane. Can anyone make up any moves, as it looks like they're going to be pretty nice at the moment?
The problem, that I think the issue that most of these guys have in this train of cars right now is, as Jacob goes very wide onto the grass, can that open the door for Robinson here? He's closing down into the first corner. It's not going to be enough room to play with though, because he's run out of road before coming into the first corner. Into the chicane they both go, but of course Jacob's now going to have issues with those tyres. They're not going to be sticking to the tarmac as good as what they had done before. He's going to have picked up a lot of debris from that excursion.
Debris indeed, as down the inside goes Robinson on Frazier, who made that mistake. Can he just get alongside into the chicane? He can, but it looks like he's going to have to stick it round the outside for the second part, and he does absolutely superbly. Robinson gets up into 11th position finally. It's not like he had to work at all for that move, only sticking behind for 10 minutes or so, but finally gets past Frazier.
Yeah, we break into the final 10 minutes of this race now. But yeah, Robinson round the outside. That was good racing room from both drivers. They didn't pinch or squeeze one another onto the apex as Jacob goes wide once again onto the grass. Not too sure why Robinson's doing it. He had control of his car, but decides to pick up a bit of grass himself, help with the lawn mowing bill. But now he has to do the task of catching up to John Slow. It's 1.5 seconds. He seems to be strong on his pace at the time. Or for the time being, should I say, sorry, as Craig Stoddard eyes up Alex Daly into the braking zone at turn 5. He's going deep down into the low side in the braking zone at turn 5. Is he going to be able to make it move, stick? No, he's not. He just about avoids the rear bumper of Alex Daly as he bails out of the overtake. But John Slow's here for company. He wants a piece of this action as well as they all make their way into the next braking zone. He's down the inside. Goes Craig Stoddard. Alex Daly gets pushed wide. He's onto the grass. John Slow joins him in the overtake. That's 2 positions down. And now Paul Robinson is now looking to overtake and move up into what is now officially the top 10.
And he's going to have a real opportunity here as Daly really probably frustrated at himself. Now, can Robinson just get into those top 10 positions? Look at how cautious he is down into turn 1, not wanting to ruin this race for either himself or anyone ahead of him. It's all going to be about down into this chicane as it always is, and there's the mistake from Daly, and that is going to allow Robinson through into the top 10, Frazier through into 11th as well, and Daly has lost so many positions in the last lap. He will be so frustrated with himself. 8 minutes to go, and also a mistake from Stephen White. It's 9 seconds now, the gap between him and Wayne Walker.
Yeah, the last lap there from Stephen White is a 107.8, so something hasn't gone quite right there for him. You see Wayne Walker just in the background there starting to lap some of the cars in the midfield. It just shows the immense pace that gentleman has. We have a battle going on for P5. Brett Gooden and Craig Broadbent coming to a close as they now enter the back straight, which is the fastest point of the circuit. Could be an opportunity starting to appear here for Craig to get some more points.
Perhaps a little bit of an opportunity. Craig Broadbent, of course, starting in the top 3, just made a hash of the race start, and that just shows how important it is to get a good start in this series, as you can find yourself almost backpedaling all the way through the race, and Craig Broadbent trying to finally get a little bit of luck his way. Back up into 5th position is going to be the goal, and look at how close they are, heading through sector 3 now. Broadbent just going to stay behind, as I mention every single time. They're battling, pressure the guy ahead into a mistake if you can, and then take any little sniff you can get. It's going to be the most important thing here. The order of the day, if you are down into turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3, still behind Broadbent, as we see on board with Craig Broadbent from his simulator, and a mistake I think from the car ahead. Just a moment, giving Broadbent a chance to dive. Can he go for a dive into the chicane? No, not on this occasion. Still 6 minutes now to make this move, so plenty of time for Broadbent. As a mistake just ahead. Broadbent still not able to get through though, and has to wait yet another lap.
Yeah, he seems to have a bit more pace than Brett Gooden ahead. Of course, Craig did start 3rd in this race, so he's not had the best of times, now sitting in P6. So it's going to be about minimising damage to the championship at this stage. He's in a really good position, of course, 2nd place in the standings, so he's not too worried about the cars behind in the standings, which will be Stephen White, in fact. So maybe he does need to worry a bit, actually, having said that. So he's got to do some work now to gain as many points as we can before we go into the endurance rounds. And there are a few other battles, but this is the closest one we've got at the moment in the closing stages. Just 5 or just shy of 6 minutes left before we get to the checkered flag. Broadbent
still behind. 0.3 of a second is the gap. Yellow flags flash up in sector 2 for a moment. I'm looking at my map and it doesn't look like anyone's had too many major issues through there, so perhaps just a spin or something, or a slow moving car that's got resolved soon enough. Broadbent still not able to force that dive into the last 5 minutes of this race now. A race where almost certainly Wayne Walker's going to take the victory. It's a race that throughout the rest of the field is still up for grabs all the way throughout this battle. Another one that we'll keep an eye on, it's Hayden Darroch against Paul Robinson. down into turn 1. Robinson has a little bit of extra speed, but will have to back off, no doubt. It's not down into turn 1, is it at all?
It's turn 6.
I apologise, but anyway, we continue on, and Robinson not able to make the move at this stage just yet. It looks like turn 1. I'm not sure where I've got that idea from, but anyway, a mistake from Hayden, and Robinson can't quite capitalise. And that's the frustrating thing, when someone makes a mistake, and the mistake that you've been trying to force them into all race long, hoping that they make all race long, but then they make that mistake into a place that actually backs you up as well. And there's another mistake from Robinson, and that might, with 4 minutes to go, be his opportunity gone at this 13th position.
Yeah, but Hayden Darrow, instead of looking behind, he's looking ahead. Justin Bryce is the guy ahead in P12. So big sideways moment there for Justin. Comes onto the back straight at turn 4. Hayden's got the extra ponies as he gets a nice clean exit out of that very important corner. Now side by side, coming into the braking zone at turn 5. This will be the crucial moment. He'll have to go deep into the corner to then overtake. He's actually cleared Justin Bryce completely coming into that corner, and what a nice overtake that is. Just a small mistake, but has big consequences.
Absolutely, and a superb move as well. Justin Bryce in 13th position now has Paul Robinson behind him for company, and perhaps that has played into the hands of... Oh, there's a mistake, and I'm trying to see who that is.
That's Brett Gooden, yeah, and that's Craig Broadbent, the fight for P5. That's all unravelled, so he's clearly cracked under pressure there in that Starship Holden, and it's gone slightly wide coming into the turn 5, and Craig Broadbent's just sailed on through. So 3 points for him, and the next guy in the up the road would be Alex Kidas. So I mean, there's not a lot of time left, 3 minutes still remaining, but both those guys were catching Alex at that stage. He's done really well to get P4 after the woes of his first race earlier on, but yeah, he's got to hold on now because Craig Broadbent is on a charge.
Absolutely, and this would be a superb result for Alex Kidas, who finally will get his P4, but 8 tenths of a second, 2.5 minutes to hold off here, and the question is, can he do it? And I would suggest that it's going to be difficult for Broadbent to get through in 2.5 minutes, as he's got to catch up and then set him up for the move, but it's not going to help with Kidas going deep into the chicane. And wow, it's just so fine margins at the moment that it's just throughout the field, causing everyone so much pressure. Another mistake from Kidas, a huge mistake from Kidas, almost spinning all the way around, and this is going to give Broadbent that little bit of hope he needs to get back into 4th position. Perhaps he's gained all of the time he needed pretty much on this lap, and now can have 2 minutes, 2 straight laps as they come to the line. Probably exactly 2 laps now, penultimate lap of the race. Broadbent in with a real opportunity of getting this 4th position from Alex Kidas, who, as we mentioned, just miscued his strategy in the first race, and this race looking a lot better, and there's almost contact down into the hairpin. There is contact into the hairpin, and now Broadbent trying to go down the inside into the next chicane, down the straight. He's almost forced almost all the way onto the grass. Down the inside he goes. Kidas still making contact with him, and oh my word, they're so close. Broadbent still sends it down the inside, makes the move through on Kidas, and there was absolutely no love lost there.
No, that was a lot of bumping and barging going on there, wasn't there? They were really fighting for these points with 1 minute to go. Craig Broadbent tried to, I don't think it was intentional to unbalance Kidas on the exit of turn 4. He just tried to get the undercut and power out of the corner early to get that overtake, but didn't go well. Bit of retaliation as Alex tried to squeeze him on the entry to turn 5. Very spicy, aggressive manoeuvring from both drivers, but all's fair in love and war. It didn't end badly. I think that was just a bit of rubbing elbows, and all ends well.
I did say, actually, that Wayne Walker was, although we were starting their penultimate lap and now obviously the final lap, I'm not too convinced by that, because Wayne Walker is 30-40 seconds down the road. So actually this is probably now the penultimate lap of the race.
I'm not too sure where Wayne Walker is at the moment. He's just coming over start finish line now, so they have one more lap after this, so he's just starting that lap now. The gap already to 11 seconds to Stephen White, so that small error did cost him significantly, and yeah, Wayne Walker's going to bring this one home provided nothing silly happens. But yes, final lap now as Craig Stoddard and John Slow just up the road ahead of our race leader here. 0.2 seconds coming into turn 5. Are they going to battle it out one final time before the checker flag is flown? John Slow looks down the inside. He's going to send it. He's locked up his rears massively. Goes onto the grass in big style and ends up facing the wrong way, stationary. Very wise there from Craig Stoddard to wait that one out and allow that to unfold, but it doesn't get collected in the process.
Very easy to follow someone through into a mistake as well there. But Wayne Walker has just got a couple of corners to go to try and make it 9 in a row. This is an absolutely superb drive from him. He's taken advantage of a very difficult situation today and he drifts through the final corner. Wayne Walker makes it 9 in 9 and is able to win the race. And we said in the last edition, in the last round a few moments ago, that it was his championship to lose now, but after 9 in a row, I think it's even more so his championship to lose.
Yeah, we'll have to sit down and do some calculations in terms of how many points are still available. Of course, he can still DNF in the next few rounds. Hopefully that won't be the case, but he has been putting on a brilliant show for us each and every round, and nobody so far seems to have an answer for him. Stephen White seemed to have an answer for him in the first half of the race. He did a fantastic job of keeping Wayne on his toes, that's for sure, and it's always a great display. But of course, that small error, that's the fine margins that we talk about between winning and losing these races. They are so all on top of their game that even the smallest mistake will have the biggest change in the race result. And Mark Young, can I just mention Mark Young? He's come home in third. He's once again found himself on a podium. That's going to be his third so far in the 2022 season, all of them from the last round as well. So he's starting to up his game as the championship progresses into its final closing stages. But what a race.
Awesome race indeed, and it's going to be one that, we look back on and think actually throughout the field was where the battles were there, not necessarily all the way at the front throughout, but the first half as well, of course, very interesting in this field. But we'll be going to the race results in a moment. Hopefully get some interviews in as well as we react to what was an incredible 2 hours or so of racing. Just waiting for those to finally pull up, but we are joined by Wayne Walker and Stephen White. We'll go to those in a moment. Let's just confirm the race results, at least before penalties and things are applied. Wayne Walker wins the race quite emphatically in the end, with Mark Young finishing in third position. Sorry, Stephen White in second. I don't know why I've done that out of order. Craig Broadbent finishes in fourth position, with Alex Kidas in fifth in the end. Brett Gooden finishes in sixth. Then it's Billy Ebenhauser in 7th, Craig Stoddard in 8th, John Slow finishes 9th, and Alex Daly rounds out the top 10. It's Jacob Frazier in 11th from Hayden Darrow in 12th, Paul Robinson in 13th, with Justin Bryce finishing in 14th. Matt Ogg finishes in 15th, with Ashley Kutchi in 16th. Then Sean Stafford, the only retirement from the race. But we have got the top 3 in this call at the moment, and Wayne Walker, we'll go to you first as the double winner today. Just what went right there in both of those 2 races?
Pretty much everything sort of went well tonight. First race got the jump off the start. Pitted early to not get undercut in pit stops, and that worked as well. So I come out in first after all the pit stops, and the whole time Steve was pushing me, and couldn't sort of back off at all. So it was pretty much qualifying lap after qualifying lap, trying to keep him in front. And then the second race didn't get the best start, and Steve got the jump on me. And he sort of, for the first few laps, he started to pull away. Then I think as our tyres started to wear a little bit, I started to catch back up. Before the pit stop, I could get close, but I couldn't get far enough sort of up to go for the pass. So I actually pitted a lap earlier in the second race, and then on the outer pit lap just pushed as hard as I could and I was able to undercut him in the pits, and then just push as hard as I could to stay in front of him. And for the same thing for the first say 5 or 6 laps, he was able to catch me a little bit, and I think it got down to about half a second. But yeah, same thing, as the tyres started to wear, I was able to slowly pull the gap back out, and then I think he spun at the end of the back straight, which, after that I was able to relax a little bit. But yeah, it was high pressure the whole 2 races.
And just one final question as we head into the big one next, the Bathurst 1000. The championship looks pretty safe for you at the moment, but we've got 3 endurance rounds heading up, which are going to be certainly very grueling. How are you approaching your preparation to Bathurst?
I'm not sure, really. Just pretty much the same as I have been, just taking each race as they come, sort of thing, and just trying not to make mistakes. That's the biggest thing, because I think even from here to the end, because we dropped 3 rounds, I could still lose the championship if I had three bad rounds at the end, and somebody else won the rest of them.
So thank you very much for joining us, Wayne, and we'll throw over to Stephen, who had second place in both races in the end. Stephen, you got that good start in race 2. During the pit stops, just didn't quite come to fruition in the end for you, but you were so close, and I guess you'll be pretty happy with the result anyway.
Yes, thanks, Tom. It was another interesting night, and race 1, we missed the start. Normally we have the red lights go one by one, and for race at Pukekohe, the lights just came on and went out, so I missed the split second of the start. And as Wayne said, I had good pace for probably the first half of the stint, and Wayne is a little bit like Van Gisbergen, and he can maintain good speed and save tyres. So in that later half of the stint, he's just got an extra couple of tenths on me, and so I was happy to finish where I did in race 1. Then race 2, I made sure for the start that I wasn't going to miss the lights that time, and it's so much easier when you're in the lead because you can control the pace, you can look after your tyres a little bit nicer, and I did my best to try and keep the temperature down, because that was my issue in race 1. And Wayne and I were talking about what roll bar settings we're using, and funny enough, we had exactly the same roll bar setting. And when I saw Wayne came in a lap earlier for his pit stop than what he did for race 1, and I thought, do I stay out for 2 laps or do I just come in straight away? And I thought, I have to follow. I have to come in straight away. And as it is, we've spoken about it time after time. You need to dot all your I's, cross all your T's to beat Wayne on the night, and I managed to get half of it done, but my pit stops still need a little bit of fine tuning, and obviously came out behind Wayne and managed to get in arm's distance of him. And I think, like he said, once you get close behind someone, it is difficult to do the pass. And I think there was a little bit of aero wash tonight, because I noticed my tyre temperatures got a little bit hotter.
Yeah.
And then obviously down the hairpin, I decided to do a donut, and I should have done the donut at the end of the race and not with about 5 laps to go.
And I'll just ask Matt if you've got any questions for Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, how difficult was it with the tyres? I mean, we as you already mentioned, as soon as you got into that slipstream, it pretty much cooked the fronts alive. At this circuit where you've got lots of long straights followed by heavy braking zones, is that quite a large factor? Because it happened in the first race and the second race. It was pretty much mirror of, you gained ground, you got into the slipstream, it looked like you was going to challenge for the lead, and then it just died off. Was it all tyres? Was it all just them overheating and then you just lost pace as a result?
I think you're spot on there, Matty. I think in terms of raw speed, I definitely had speed tonight. But again, once we follow Wayne closely for a few laps, I think the temperatures were just going up, and I'd say Wayne had the same issue when he was following me, and it just came down to strategy in the pits. But I think with Pukekohe, it's when you think about the circuit, it's really just 2 straights with some medium to high speed corners and a hairpin. So the tyres, once, I mean, it doesn't really matter what circuit you're at. Once the tyres get hot, it's hard for them to recover. But look, it's a fun circuit, and as you know, it's a shame that supercars won't be there next year. And it's a good ding dong battle of a circuit. It's a shame I couldn't be there at the end to challenge Wayne for the win.
Yeah, that is a point. If I can go back to you, Wayne, just for that question, how does it feel to win the final ever Auckland sprint race at this circuit? You've got the final victory ever in this series.
I think that's really good. Yeah.
Your name's going to be on a plaque somewhere. It's going to be Wayne Walker, like championship of Auckland or something, for the last ever man to ever win it. But
that'd be good.
But
he's got the Jason Richards Award.
But yeah, it was fantastic to see you guys go toe to toe once again. You know, Craig Broadbent was there at the same time. Unfortunately, he couldn't bring it together to have a three-way fight like we usually have. But we'll move on now to Mark Young. Once again, you're on a podium spot. How does it feel to be joining these two chaps up into the podium positions once again?
Look, I'm stoked. Home race for me, so to be on the podium, it's pretty unreal. So got lucky again. Tough racing in that one, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you was in the midfield for the top 10. We saw you guys fighting through the first and the second race. How did you manage to, struggle your way all to the front like you did in the second round?
I just do what I do all the time, just stay patient and just try and do my laps, and then pick good times to overtake. So yeah, it seemed to work. Had some really good battles. I loved it.
And you say that it's your home circuit. Are you going to miss this one? Is it something you're quite fond of? Maybe visiting there in real life, perhaps, or any history for yourself in the circuit?
Oh yeah, I've been there many times. It's sad that it's going. So we'll see what New Zealand track they offer next time.
Well, you've got 3 podiums under your belt now in the final closing stages. What's changed in recent rounds that has made you go from fighting in the top 10 to getting onto these top spots? Have you changed your approach at all, or you just take every race as it comes?
No, just every race as it comes, and sip on my beer and try and stay consistent.
Oh, maybe that's the secret: intoxication while driving and racing. That's there you go, Stephen. Take note for the next round. You've got to be intoxicated before you race, Wayne, and then you might have a chance.
You don't want to give me a couple of drinks, Matty. I'm a lightweight, so I only need to sniff a red wine or a bourbon and coke, and you don't want to give me the keys to a car.
maybe not for Bathurst, at least. There's a lot of concrete barriers there. We'll leave that one for the time being. But guys, thank you very much. I mean, Tom, have you got any questions you want to ask any of the guys now before we sign off for the evening?
Not really. I think we've touched all bases, and we'll let you all go and enjoy your celebrations. It was a tough evening of racing as well, to do 2 hours practically straight, especially in V8 supercars. I don't think I could do it myself. Although I say that, like, we haven't got Bathurst coming next.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys, for joining us. Congratulations again on all your podiums. Wayne Walker, 9 victories in a row. You're on a charge. Congratulations for that, and final victory at Auckland. But we'll let you guys enjoy your evening. Congratulations again, and we'll see you at the next round at Bathurst.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Tom. Just want to send best wishes to Chris as well, since he couldn't be here tonight. He's had to take a little bit of an absence, and just wishing him and the family and the Downunder series grateful for everything that they do to allow us to race, and yourselves as well. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you for that. We at CFS second that as well. So hopefully we'll see him on track very soon. Fingers crossed. But those were the interviews for the evening, ladies and gents. So great bunch of guys as always, and always huge respect between one another as they fight for these top spots. If you do enjoy the series, if you're just joining us and want to find out a bit more about the series, all the links are in the description for you. You can hit these guys up. They'll be more than happy to chat with you and get you signed up for the series. Have a chat with them and join the action. Plenty of racing yet to be had as we head to Bathurst next round at the 8th of October. So don't miss that. That's going to be a hell of a race. So sign in then. Tom, is there anything you want to say before we say good evening to the world?
Is of course my first full race in the Down Under series, which wasn't the plan, but it was good to see that this one went a lot better than the previous one that was plagued by R-Factor 2 issues. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll be back again soon. But that's it from me.
Yeah, from us here at CFS, thanks for joining us. A great thanks to the sponsor of the series, Noble Host. Obviously, Chris has a lot to do with that. They sponsor the series. There's a website in the description, and of course Servers Australia, they give us these amazing servers. We're connected all the way from the UK, and we can still have smooth streams and catch all of the action as it unfolds. So amazing performance from those servers. A link to those guys in the description as well. But from us, that's it. We're going to sign off for tonight, so don't forget to subscribe and like for more in the series, and get in touch with the guys at Downunder, and we'll leave you to it for the evening. And thanks very much, and goodbye.